The Canadian celebrations continue after they advance past Venezuela on penalties Thursday in Texas. Canada, of course, under the guidance of American manager Jesse Marsch. They also have a roster that features 13 MLS players. Of the 15 players used against Venezuela, 7 are currently in MLS. That doesn't include guys like Kyle Aaron and Alphonso Davies, who started their careers in Major League Soccer. Herc, when it comes to the United States, more MLS tends to be a bad thing. How come it seems different here for Canada?
Can we correct Derek Cornelius there really quickly? That's Texas isn't in the United States, which would be an away game for.
Yeah, it was like an away game because it was an away game.
Right. Or neutral if he wants to go.
Canada, U.S., you know.
Yeah. What was the question? I'm sorry.
What was the question? Why, when it comes to the U.S. team, whenever there's more MLS guys, it seems to be a bad thing or a reflection of maybe the lack of quality within the pool, but it seems to be the kind of core strength of this Canadian team.
Let me rephrase this for you. Major League Soccer is not the core strength of this Canadian team. Their familiarity with one another is the core strength for this Canadian team.
Might you say a lot of that comes from MLS?
No, they would come from playing already countless games together, being accustomed to one another. But when it comes to the U.S. men's national team and how toxic things can get with Major League Soccer, is because I think all of us on this panel would say that the average, the casual eye, the majority of people would say that if you play in a top 5 league in Europe, you would be better than somebody who plays in Major League Soccer. Majority of the times, the average player in these top 5 leagues is better than the average player in Major League Soccer. So that's where that comes from. But when it comes to this is about 11v11. It's about unity. It's about familiarity. It's about building. Canada has built something over time, so it's easier for a team that knows who they are, whether it's USL, whether it's MLS, whether it's Liga MX, or beyond, to play well with each other. That's why I think you see this. To me, it's great. It's a great thing for the league. It's a great thing for these Canadian players. Certainly, a lot of these Canadian players will hope that builds to something else, which will get them a better opportunity elsewhere. And I think it's a great thing.
Who stood out to you, Ali, from this Canadian team?
I think Shaffelburg was brilliant coming into the game in replace of Buchanan, which I think, you step into a role and it's like big shoes to fill. And I thought he was brilliant. I thought he was, got into the attack multiple times. He created a lot of opportunities. He was on the end of things. He was, tackling and getting in, he was gritty and just creating something out of nothing. And sometimes that's what you need from a player who's just kind of coming in and really filling this hole. And he took his opportunity and ran with it. No pun intended, because he was one of the quickest players on the field. But I thought he did excellent, and he had a goal. And that's really tough to do when you're asked to just jump into, a game of this caliber and have to perform and perform well. And he did his job extremely well, and I think this is, going to be a tough decision for Jesse Marsch, possibly moving forward when Buchanan hopefully comes back fit and healthy.
He's an MLS guy, too, Casey, right now with Nashville, but came out of the Toronto Academy.
No, that's great. I mean, and it's not like the U.S. national team over years hasn't had more depth than MLS. It's just a situation right now where the majority of players, the bulk of the players that deserve to be on the men's national team right now are playing in Europe. It's not a poor reflection on MLS. It's not a poor reflection on anything. It's just what it is at this current moment of time. There was one thing that I liked out of the Canadian national team, and maybe it's my goalkeepers union hat on, that, Crepeau was in a horrible position for that goal.
On the goal against Venezuela.
On the goal against Venezuela. And Jesse came out and said, well, I asked him to be much further off his line. Yeah. And that's on him. And I like that. I like that support of your goalkeeper. I still would like Jesse to understand the position a little better and just kind of say, look, don't put yourself in false positions that put yourself in a capability of conceding a poor goal. There was no reason for it. And so, and Crepeau, I think, will also learn from it and go, yeah, my manager can tell me things, but there's a point where I still have to read the game for what is right at this point in time.
As a defender, what did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was just miscommunication, mistimed. I think he could have done much better. Just because your coach tells you to do something in the moment, you have to be able to recognize, just like Casey said, you have to be able to recognize, and see the game and recognize that you can do that,
right?
or you can't. And I think you're professional enough and you're capable enough to not just constantly, apply that and take that, so serious.
Do you like that Marsch kind of took the blame for it.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but also in the game, like you need to be able to make a decision, you know, in the moment. And I think he was kind of caught in between, but also Bombito, I think he needed to make a play
100%.
too. And I think Rondon, he, you know,
Rondon makes a play, right?
Yeah, he makes a play and he gets him off balance. Exactly what Bombito should have done in that moment, and he didn't. And then, you know, it was like kind of a scuffle, and then he got caught out.
Well, if I'm Jesse Marsch and Maxime Crepeau can't play the way I want him to play, guess what? He's coming out. So
Right.
he better do what I said.
Unless he keeps a clean sheet,
Well,
he doesn't
exactly.
have to go.
No, because there's a reason Jesse wants to play that way. There's a reason he wants to push the numbers up.
There's a reason why he wants to concede terrible goals.
Well, no, nobody wants to concede terrible goals.
Well, but if you put your goalkeeper consistently in
and
bad
Bombito
positions,
put him in a bad position.
100%.
If he plays him the ball, if he doesn't get beat.
Kirk, you can't play somebody else's
but what
position
you're asking is for the starting goalkeeper who just became the starting goalkeeper to look
I
the coach in the eye and say, I'm not going to play the way you want me to play.
And
Yeah,
that's
but
why I
even-
appreciate him taking the blame, but you still have to learn from it.
But even as a defender, once you see that ball, that service get played in behind, you better get on your bike and run. And same with Maxime. He
Yeah.
needs to get back.
Think
You
of
don't
all
just stand
think
there.
of all the things Bombito could have done there. The easy thing, play to Maxime, and Maxime can clear it, could play
Yeah,
somewhere
but
else.
he's not as
Kick it out,
technical in that moment.
or don't let Salomon Rondon bump you. There's so many different things that could have happened before Crepeau. Listen, I agree with what you're saying. Great thing that Jesse defended him because it is on Jesse. That's what Jesse wants him to do. But what are we going to expect a player who's just starting for his national team to do? To look around to the new coach and say, yeah, but I'm not going to do
But
that.
Herc, here's. So were they about? Where was that challenge? About 10 yards
Yeah,
in Canada's half,
correct.
right?
Give her some.
Okay,
yes.
so I got two players making a challenge, and I want my goalkeeper 10 yards away from him?
Well, he's already running back.
Well, he's running back because
He sees Bombito
because
running
he's
forward.
realized I'm in a horrible position.
Yeah, but think about this. If he doesn't see Bombito running forward, he's running too. He's the guy that
And
challenges.
he's going to go head
Which
the
is what
ball
Jesse
10 yards
wants.
off the
He wants
midfield
Jesse.
line.
Jesse wants him playing that sweeper.
The goalkeeper, you want your goalkeeper to. Jesse wants his goalkeeper to be challenging the striker for headers
Well,
in your
obviously, that's
midfield.
what he wants because that's what he asked him.
Well, now
Well,
let's
that's
hope he
crazy.
doesn't.
Well,
he stays back.
Well, let me ask, because obviously against Venezuela, you can understand a coach taking a more aggressive posture. Your next opponent is Argentina. Does that kind of force Jesse Marsch
better.
to drive home the point to
better.
Crepeau? Hey,
Yes.
whatever I said before,
Yep.
having had this lesson now and knowing it's Argentina coming up, let's be a little bit more conservative. Or is the onus on the coach to say, no, like, regardless of who we're playing against, we stick to our
I
guns,
think
even
they
if it's
learned
Argentina?
that in that first match of Jesse's tenure.
Right.
That there's certain opponents you need to respect differently. And I think they learned that very quickly.
You know what? I don't know if they learned that because think about this one for a second.
Okay.
Think about this one for a second. Against the world champions, Argentina opening game, Ismael Kone is the guy who loses the ball on their corner kick for being so aggressive.
That's right.
And it's route one the other way.
But what did we also see? We also saw 2 or 3 missed chances that we know Argentina will bury on a different day.
Of course.
So
of course.
you can't just look at it and go, well, we didn't concede there, even though we should have. And we better learn from that. And to me, those are the best learning moments when you weren't punished. Because now I can be a little harder on you because you don't feel so bad that you made the mistake. So now I can be like, hey, look, let's really look at this. Because this is where we can't afford to be that aggressive. Because if we are, on a different day, we're down 3-0 and it doesn't matter.
I also think that in those moments and the way you set up defensively in a corner, you never leave a one-on-one
Correct.
in the back. So I don't remember the exact setup, but there always has to be numbers up
I think it was a
situations.
throw-in, if I
Yeah,
recall correctly.
near
yeah, near the
end
corner
line.
kick. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah.
But if you
then-
have Alphonso Davies
if you
maybe
have-
back there, you can maybe.
then you need to
Yeah.
need to at least have numbers up, no matter what set piece it is.
Yeah.
from-
One in
from the
front,
corner.
one in back,
Exactly.
something where a
So
little more.
he should have never been
cushion.
left 1v1.
Particularly in a team against an opponent that you don't expect that you're going to necessarily win 3-2 or 4-3, where you're thinking, we got to keep this
Yeah.
tight, hope for a set piece, hope for a counter, hope for an off day from our opponent.
Yeah, I think they're just. I'm trying to think of what you guys are saying, and yes, but there are 2 coaches in this tournament who both have never conformed and always played a similar way, and it's Marcelo Bielsa and Jesse Marsch. And for right or wrong, those 2 coaches, you could say, are the downfall of Leeds, but they never conformed. They kept playing the same way.
Did you see that today, though? In Uruguay, was there a little conforming to get the result.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, maybe to get the result at the end, absolutely.
Yeah.
And certainly once they go down a man,
Yes.
Oh,
exactly.
100%.
then it
Yeah.
becomes very clear. And to some of the stuff you're talking about, when you talk about Canada and maybe the shortcomings, I have to think maybe some of it is just the short time they've been working under Jesse
Yeah.
Marsch. If they're really doing all these new things, he takes over just before the tournament.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff is probably getting ironed out on the fly, which makes what they're doing.
But that's kind of
even more
normal for
impressive.
national teams anyway.
Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
don't have a ton of time with your players.
This
You
is an
don't have
extreme
a
situation, though,
True.
taking over right
Agreed.
before a major
Agreed.
tournament, certainly.